Hi. In this video, I want to give you the benefit of using auto layout over using grouping. Now, there are certain cases where you might use grouping, but I want to give you the main benefits of using auto layout in almost all of the cases. And also to give you some of the challenges you would face with using grouping in a design system level. And design systems help keep your product scalable and consistent. And if you're not using a design system, or if you're using grouping, it simply means that you're not using a design system. Because in this video, I'm going to show you why you are not using a design system. Let's get right into the video. So I've created some layers of points I would like to show to you guys. So we're going to start from scale. Now, in scaling, I'm going to show you two examples. I've already created these different components, or let's say cards, because they haven't been turned into an actual reusable component. So I've created these different elements, and I want to show you how I would create them using these two methods. Grouping, which you can access through using Command or Control G, or selecting everything and right clicking to group, or you can use Shift plus A for auto layout, and you can also use the layout section over here to turn elements into auto layout. But bear in mind that if you have a single element, that layout section would not show the auto layout function. So you would have to use the shortcut Shift plus letter A on your keyboard. Now let's start with a basic button and see how a button scales. I'm going to take this text and let's bring it up here. All right, so this is a text, and we're going to have this text create a button in two methods. We'll start with grouping. In grouping, all I'll need to do after typing my text, for now, I'm going to type in a text by now. All right, now we have this text, and I'm going to have a button using the group. So to make it fair enough, I'm going to use a frame. All right, so someone does not say, oh, I use frame, I don't use shapes. Okay, it's the same thing. So I'm going to use a frame instead. So to bring out a frame, it's very easy. You just need to hit F on your keyboard and you have a frame, and then you can draw, or you come down here and select frame. I love to use shortcuts, so you will notice I use a lot of shortcuts while doing this. So we have a frame. I'll come here and change it to 44 in height, because this is the minimum recommended touch area for certain things like actions, certain places where users need to take actions like buttons or icon buttons or other elements within your interface. And then I'm going to move this to the center of the frame. So because it's inside a frame, I can easily do this, use the alignment tool to position left and also to position centered. Okay, now we have this one. All right, now I'm going to duplicate this. First, let us give this a color. So for the text color, I'm going to make that white, and then for the background color, I will change that to blue. Okay, so we have this two, and this one is the auto layout frame. So I'm just going to type A, change the title to A, and then this is for the grouping. All right, this is grouping. So we have elements together. You can use just a shape. It's the same thing, or the same result you also get, but this is a grouping that people do in most cases. And then the other side, we're going to use auto layout. Now I already have the frame, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on this layout to use auto layout, and it turns that into an auto layout. The only thing is it has adjusted it and given me a height of 43, which I can adjust from this layer. Now, in an auto layout property, which is this section you see here, this is the auto layout property. The auto layout property has several functions or settings that you can do to adjust certain elements within your design. For instance, if I zoom into this, we have things like the width. The width is the left to right of end to end of that specific container that you have selected. That will give you the width, and this width has a width in pixels of 88. So this is 88 pixels in width, which means from this point to this point. And then we also have the height, which is on the other side, which is the top to bottom of this specific container, and we have the height as 44. We can do several things to this auto layout container because this is now an auto layout. We can do several things like adjusting the text. For instance, I'm going to just duplicate this because I'll still want to play with this one above. So I'll bring this downwards. All right. And for this one, I'm going to type in something like learn more. All right. And you will notice what happened. It's fine. It's still within the button, but now I need to make certain adjustments manually. Now I can select this frame and then adjust it a bit. All right, and then select this and then use the alignment tool to position it again, which would give me the button. Now, on the other hand, in this auto layout container, I can do the same thing, learn more, and I do not need to do anything else. I only need to just update the text, and you would notice that it updates dynamically with whatever I put into this specific container. All right, this is one of the usefulness when it comes to scaling whatever you have as an element within an auto layout frame. All right, and for the grouping, it has the disadvantage of you having to do those things manually. For instance, imagine that this was a text within a banner and I want to have double lines of text. Now I have typed in learn more and I type in something else like still learn more and maybe another learn more. I've pressed enter and I've gone to the other line, and you see I have learn more, learn more, learn more. Imagine this was an actual content and we have this in 3 lines. Now if I copy this and I paste it in here as well so that I don't type it again, you would notice that the frame adjusts dynamically with the content that I have inside of it. Now with this one, I would have to come back and manually adjust it, select the text again, and then position it the way I want it to be, which to me is a lot of work. It kills productivity. So if you are supposed to do something in 1 hour, you spend 2 hours doing that specific task, or even 3 hours if there were multiple elements within that same component that you needed to make an adjustment manually to. For instance, you may have a title text, a description that is as long as this, and then you may have a button, and then you may have icons. All of those things you would have to always adjust manually every single time you make an adjustment to that specific element or card or component. And I will not say component because you cannot even make the adjustment within a component, and I'll show you that when we get to that point. But let's focus on this. So I'm going to take this off, and I'm sure by now you already see some of the benefits of using auto layout, but I have a lot more in stock to show you, and that's why we have all of this here, so you can be able to see the best use cases for auto layout. All right, let's get back to the property for auto layout. Now in the auto layout property, and you notice I'm talking a bit fast, and I'm talking a bit fast so that I can capture this video in a very short time. Even though we're going to spend 1 hour on this video, but I'll try to take it as slow as possible, and you can probably use the video control to reduce the speed if I'm talking too fast. All right, now in this auto layout property, we have a bunch of functions that you have. Now this function, which is the first one, the freeform, was added recently. I'm going to come back to this, but these other ones have been there. This grid as well was also included. It wasn't part of the functions we used to have in auto layout. So if you press this, you're going to have certain grids, and you can increase these grids based on the numbers or number of elements within your auto layout components. But we're not going to be using grid. We're going to focus on 3 main function within this layout section. Now first one would be the vertical layout. Now a vertical layout works when you have multiple elements within that same auto layout. And I just need to fix this. Whenever you have this, I've duplicated the text, but you notice that that text is not showing within this auto layout. It's because something is in fixed position. It's either is in fixed height or it's in fixed width. And if you notice here, we're seeing 88 and we're seeing 43. And what this tells me is that these elements are now in fixed width and fixed height. So to solve this, I need to make them hog content. Hog content is, how do I explain this to you guys? So hog content is more like it's more like a jar. I saw a jar recently on TikTok, on Twitter, where someone had a jar outside and a crow was throwing stones into that jar because the jar had limited water in it, and it kept dropping stones inside of it until the jar overflowed. All right, hog content is similar to this, but what hog content basically does is it maintains the same structure of that auto layout that you've created. Meanwhile, it adjusts dynamically based on the elements within that auto layout component. I'm going to use the word component a lot for this going forward. But now we have this one single component. See this as a component. Hog content allows these components to adjust in width and height dynamically. And when we say something is dynamic, we mean that it reacts to an action, or it responds to a reaction, or whatever. You know, when someone speaks to you and you respond, this is how things react. They react dynamically based on actions that have been instructed. So for instance, if we say we're changing this from what it is now, from buy now to learn more, it's in hog content, this would adjust dynamically. But the reason why it hasn't adjusted dynamically is because of one key reason. And that one key reason is because this component now is in a fixed position in either width or height. And like I said, if I select the frame, I can easily tell that this has a fixed width and a fixed height because I can see the numbers. Once you can see the numbers, just know it has that fixed width. And what this simply means is, if I build a house and I have this gate, my gate from this point to this point, it means that this gate will remain that way. Regardless of whatever anybody does, that gate will still be in that same position. It's not moving. It's now in a fixed position. So it will always remain in that same position regardless of whatever you do. You push it, you match it. This is what fixed position means, or fixed height or fixed width. It means I've given you this fixed dimension. Do not go beyond it. I want you to remain at this point or below this point. It means that whatever anybody types, this element will continue to remain at this exact calculation that has been defined. And this is what fixed means. Now, for the hog content, I've already explained this, but to give you more context, in hog content, these elements adjust dynamically to whatever feedback that you've given it. So if I call your name, you respond. This is how hog content works. Now, to be able to fix this, because now we have this playing out the same way with the grouping. By the way, the grouping cannot have these different elements because it does not have an auto layout property until we turn it into an auto layout component. Now, to fix this one, all you will need to do is select it and go to where you have the width and change it from fixed to hog content. And with that, it's going to fix it. But remember, we duplicated this, right? So we need to fix that as well. So we'll come here to height and choose hog content. And before we even click on it, you'll notice these red lines or red arrows on the top part and the bottom part of the screen, letting us know that there's more content within this same component. So all we need to do is just change this to hog content, and now this element has now become dynamic. And you can see that we now have hog showing over here and showing over here instead of just showing us the numbers. Now, there are more things we can do and that specific item is called a fill container. But I'm going to show you how we use this in another example. But this is how it is for this. Now we can adjust the text as much as we want, and you will notice that it would just keep adjusting because it is in hog content. Now there are other properties. There are other properties within this same auto layout, all right, and those properties are the alignment. For now, we'll keep this on align center, and I'll show you how you can use this alignment section in one of the examples below. Now, something else we have is the space between. The element or number you see here is not just a random number. It simply means a space between elements. For instance, if I duplicate this again, I now have two different elements that are vertically aligned. And vertically aligned in the sense that they have this layout turned on, and you can see it's selected the vertical layout. And I can switch this. I can make this line more come over here. Maybe we want to say something like new version out now. All right, and this is good. We can have it this way. You know, if it's like an alert banner on the website, you usually see these alert banners on websites at the top section above the top navigation, where they show you that there's something coming up, and then sometimes the learn more has a stroke. I just did that by pressing Command U, or they just put an arrow or chevron by the side so that you know that this is clickable. Now we have this element. We can either use the alignment tool. By the way, you can use the alignment to align left. All right, you can see that aligned. If you align right, this is what you get. But we want to align left. All right, and then if you want to change the layout, for now it's in a vertical layout. If you wanted to change the layout to have these elements on the same line, imagine it was on this one, and I can do that. Actually, I'll duplicate this and I'll change this to G, and let's assume this is the grouping. I'll just click this to remove auto layout from it. Now it's just a single frame. Now if I wanted to align these to be maybe I change my mind later on in the design process, and I decide to align this horizontally. Horizontal means the x-axis, so from point A to point B, and then vertical means from top to down. When you're standing up, that's the vertical y-axis, and when you're lying down, that's the horizontal x-axis. So if I wanted to make this a horizontal layout, I would need to do some customization. First, I'll need to extend this, so I'll select this frame, drag it out, okay, to somewhere here, and then I'll select this learn more. I'll come here and paste it here, not even pasting, I'm just moving it around, okay. I'll then have to manually eyeball it, and then I would select both of these to see the distance, which is 11, and maybe I want the distance between them to be 12, so I'll type in 12 so that I now have a distance of 12. Then I'll select this and then adjust it until I have that grid. You can see that 15 15 on the screen, okay. Then I'll now do the same for the top, which I'll still have that grid again, 13 13. And then if I'm not okay with 13 13, then I'll need to adjust it by holding shift and command, alt and command the same time, to move the up and the down part until I have something that I feel like works for me. So let's assume this is what we go with at the end of the day, and then maybe we wanted to add some other elements later. I'll come back to this, but let's focus on this now. So we have new version out, and you can see how long it took me to make this single element change from the form it was before to this form. Now let's go over to the auto layout component. In the auto layout component, I can do this with just a few clicks. Now I can just do it by clicking on the horizontal padding, and like I said, always ensure that the width and height are in hog if you actually want them to be in hog content and respond dynamically. Now they're in the hog content, so all I need to do is change this to horizontal padding. All right, you can see I can go back to vertical, I can go back to horizontal, and then I would just ensure that this is on align left and in the center part, so that this text is not, or this one is not aligning to the top of this same component, but at the center of the component. So I'll align both of them, and you will not notice the difference because everything has been defined, but this is what it is. And I can even adjust the height. You imagine when we wanted to adjust the height, I can easily adjust it here in the vertical padding in this section, and it will adjust dynamically. So I can make this 16 and I can make this 16 as well. And with that, we have the bold version. Now for this one, I need to always try to do some manual moving things around to be able to get the right spot for it. And this one, I can also adjust the space between this text and this text. And to adjust that space is very simple. All I need to do is come to the space between, and you can see that the space between adjusts, oh God, it adjusts based on the position of the element. Notice what happens when I change the layout here. You can see this is showing left and right brackets, but if I make it vertical, then it becomes up and down, letting me know that the space now is on a vertical level and it's adjusting dynamically. Okay, now to adjust this, I just need to increase this using my arrow key or to enter a specific number that I want. If I wanted 12, I can type in 12 and I'll have that, or I can use the arrow key pressing up and down and I'll have something that I want. So I'm going to leave it at 12 and I'll try to get out an icon. Sometimes it takes some time to give me this icon, so I hope that it works this time. So yes, material symbol opened up and I'll choose rounded and I'll try to select the close icon, and I hope that I'm able to use this in this illustration. Now what I want to do is I want to give users a way for them to close out these banners when they see the banner at the top bar. Okay, I've seen the banner, I know there's a new version out, I don't want to learn more, I want to give them the power to be able to close this out. Okay, so I want to add a close function for this alert banner, and I just have the icon show up. Okay, so now I will change the color. I have a way of naming my colors, and then once I select that, I'll just change this to 20. All right, and what I like to do is I like to create an extra box. Okay, I'll make this box an auto layout, and I'm going to increase I'm going to give it a bit more padding, 32 by 32. I like to do this just to give that element enough tappable area, because now we have multiple elements within this banner. This is tappable. If not, I wouldn't have done this. I would just leave it within it, and I would tell the developer to make this entire card clickable, so wherever the user clicks on closes out this function. All right, but that is also may not also be a good experience. But yeah, so I'm just going to call this icon wrapper, and I will take out the background color. Okay, now that the background color is out, we have this icon wrapper, and if I cut it, Ctrl X to cut it, I can now take it into this and just paste it. And notice what happens. It adjusts dynamically. Now the former height was 49, and maybe we want to maintain that same height. We don't want it to adjust based on any other element that goes into it. What we can simply do is come here and change the height to fixed. I'll just make the height 50. Okay, now the height is fixed. This simply means if I make this vertical, it's not going to adjust the height. The height would still maintain that same fixed position that I have given. So let's go back to the horizontal, and we have the height in fixed, which is also good for this use case, because we're bringing in an icon which has an extra tappable area, which would make this content a bit adjusted that may not fit the purpose of what we want to use it for. And then for the padding, the vertical padding, I can change that to 0, and then just at this point I can paste in that X, and you would see that now we have this X over here and it is now perfect. Okay, we can go further to select these two and put them in an auto layout again. So we have them in an auto layout. Now we have two sections of the auto layout. First section being these two elements, which in a simple term has been categorized or grouped, but we're using auto layout to group it so that we can also still be able to adjust it dynamically. You can see what we also have. We can adjust this because it is still within an auto layout property or component. Now with this frame, I can adjust the frame to have the full width of a mobile device, which would be 375 px, and we can do more. The more thing we can do here is we want this X to be at this end so that it feels like these two elements are apart. They are like some gap away from each other. So to use a technical term, this is called space between, but this is called space between or auto. Okay, not space between. There's another term Figma uses, but in Figma we use auto. It simply means space between. So we want to have a space between these two elements, and we want the space to adjust based on the content itself. All right, this content, if this content grows, then the space closes out as the content grows. But in this context, we have a fixed distance between the icon and these other elements that have been grouped. So in order for us to be able to achieve that equal space or that space between or that auto distance, what we'll need to do is very simple. We only need to select this frame, come over here to where we have space between, and then we're going to click on this and choose auto. But before I click on that, notice where the X and the other contents that I put into an auto layout, where they are at the moment. Now if I click on this, you'll notice that this has now pushed the X to the end of the margin. Now this is exactly where we want it to be. We can make more adjustment to this, because if you notice, this element has so much space at this point, and we don't want this type of space within this component. We want to have something similar to this, and you can see the space between, the space from this point to this point is smaller than the space from this point to this X, because what the users would see is this X than this extra bounding box that we have around the close icon. I hope that makes sense. All right, so to fix this, you can use what we call independent padding. Independent padding is where you give each four sides an independent figure that would determine what the size of that area would be, which is what the padding of that specific point or corner would be. Now, for instance, we have four corners. We have the left, we have the right, which is 16, we have the top, which is 0. You can't see it clearly, but if I hover on it, you're going to see 0. And then we have the bottom part, which is also 0. If I increase this and just make it somewhere like 8, you will now be able to see the 8 at the top and the 8 below. And these are the four corners this component has, and every other component that you're going to create in Figma would have. And in order for us to have this individual padding, where we would break this point, instead of making it 16, we could make it either 8 or 4. All we need to do is come over to where we have the vertical and horizontal padding. You would see these 4 boxes that shows like those lines there. So just click on it, and now you would be able to give this individual padding or independent padding. Now we have the top, the left, we have the top, the bottom, and the right. Now, where do we want to make this adjustment? It's on the right hand side. So we're going to select this, and you can press divided by 2 if you have a large number and you cannot memorize it. It's going to still give you the same response or the same the same calculation or figure that you want to put in. So I wanted to put in 8, but I divided 16 by 2 and I got 8. And I can go further to divide 8 by 2 and I'll get 4. And at this point, it is at a very perfect number. With this, the user can click wherever they want to click around this box, and it's going to completely take off this alert banner. All right, so that's for the auto layout. Now imagine you needed to do this for the grouping. Imagine those of you that already use auto layout. Now imagine you have to do what I've just done for the grouping. You might be able to find it easy, but it is a lot of work. So first, let's move this to the side. Now we need to first select this one, which is a group, and then we'll come here and change the width to 375. It extends. All right, and then we'll now select this. Okay, we'll bring it in here, we'll drag it into this box. The height was 50, so we can come here and type in 50. All right, and we have this here. We'll then position it horizontally. All right, we would use Alt. Just tap Alt to see the distance between the end and the component or the element itself, which is 7. And I would just go one step, which will now make it 8, which is fine. But the other one was 4, so we'll just press the arrow key to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, which will now give us space of 4, which is good. Okay, then this one, we'll then select these two and press Ctrl G to group it, which is Ctrl G normal to group. Then would use alignment tool to align it to the center. All right, and we have it. It's actually done. Okay, and then we'll try to like see what the space here is. This is 15. We'll go up. We'll check here what the space is. Up is 17, down is 16. Why is this inconsistent? We'll ask ourselves. Then we'll then come here and make it 16, and then try that again, and then we have 16 up, 17 down, and then we give up. We probably give up, or we do 16.5, and then we try that again. Now we have 16.5 and 16.5. So we say, okay, maybe it's now working, it's fine, and we're done. We're actually done. Okay, this is the auto layout, and this is the grouping. The same has been done. Now later on, we type a text that is quite long. All right, we say new version out now in your favorite stores. Let's include app stores. Now we type a text, new version out now, out now in your favorite stores. Okay, so we type this text and we feel like, okay, there's a problem. We need to make these adjustments in the components. We need to ensure that this is dynamic. We don't want to have this kind of issue. You know, every time we have to do something like this, it would, no, we can't be facing this. So what do? We'll now come here to the main component, and then we're going to make this fill container, and then we'll change the padding from what it was, which was a horizontal padding, to a vertical padding. All right, and then we have this. Okay, then we decide to make the height dynamic. We'll put this on hog content, and then we'll break this and just change that to 16, and then this becomes 16, and then here we can just reduce this to something like 4 is fine. All right, and maybe we'll just remove favorite and just say in your app stores. All right, so that it's closer. And then we have this is now auto. We're going to change this to 16. Let's change it to 12, so we have this space here. Okay, and so that even when we type more text, for instance, we put in the favorite app stores on the planet. You can't see it, but what we'll do now is change this from hog to fill. Now what fill will do is, we want you, once you hit a point that has a stop, take up another line or move to the next line. So we're going to put this on fill container, and you'll notice what happened. Now I move to the next line. I'll change this from semi bold to medium because it's just a text the users will read. The action is usually in semi-bold or bold. All right, in your favorite app stores. Now with this one as well, we can align this close to the top. All right, align top, and this is what we have. Now we want to make the same adjustment on this one. We're going to copy this text, okay, and we'll come here and we'll paste it in, and then we'll move this in. We'll then break it, or we can even select the text. Let me not be biased. We can select the text, and then I'll bring it down, and then I'll manually adjust it. I'm holding command so that I can adjust it, and then I would try to like scale this in a bit somewhere here, and then I'll select this one and align left, then change it to medium as I did for the other one, and then select this one, and I'll make it auto width. Click on this so that it spreads out on a straight line. Okay, then I'll bring it down here, somewhere here, and then I'll select both of them, and I see it's on 1. I'll change it to 2, and we're done. But now this is where it gets a lot difficult, and I want to show you this very shortly. Now I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to select this, the both of this, and I'm going to put them in a component. I'm going to create a reusable component for them. All right, I'm going to copy this text, but I will delete something from it. I'll just remove this 2. Okay, and I will do the same for this one as well. Just out now, and then this, select both of this, and I'll just change it from here to 2, and then select this and adjust it. Okay, and now we've been able to achieve this. Now I'm going to select this one, duplicate it, okay, select both of them, or I can only select one actually and create a component, a variant out of it. So I'll select the first one, turn it into a component. All right, we have a component now, and then just click this plus sign here, or if you hover here, I think when you hovered here before, you can just click this plus here. It's add variant. It will add another one. This one we can just make it red, so for error cases, and then we can just create another one with an orange background. All right, so we have 3 cases. We have the first case, which is like the informational case, we have the error case, and then we have like a warning case or something like that. All right, and then let's just give them, let's just call this first, we'll call this alert banner, and then this we're going to call info. We'll go to the next variant. This is warning, this is error case, and these are the variants. All right, those are variants, and we'll do the same for this guy. We'll select this guy, make it a component, and then create a variant. Mind you, we can also do the same. So we'll call this error. Let's give that a red, and then we're going to just click the plus here, and we'll call this warning, and then we'll give that the orange, and then this is going to be info and variant as well, and then this name we're going to call grouping. You know what, let's even change this one and call it auto layout. Good. All right, now we have the 2 components. One has been created using the grouping, and the other one has been created using auto layout, and we want to reuse this within our design. So I'm going to get out a frame. I'll select here, go to phone, and I'm going to choose the one with 375, which is iPhone 13 mini. All right, I'll keep it by the side here, and I will duplicate it. First, I'll grab one from the grouping. This is the one from the grouping, and to be sure that I have also grabbed the one from the grouping, you're going to see grouping as the component name, and I'll align this to the top. All right, which is fine, and then I'll grab another one from the auto layout, and I'll align it to the top as well. Now we have these 2 elements, And imagine we have a bunch of other elements within this same card. Maybe it's just a banner alert on a web page or on a website landing page. It's fine. And now I want to adjust this content here to have even more content within it. So I'm going to start with the auto layout one. I can just select this and paste in the content I copied. Now notice what happened. This adjusts dynamically. I now have this downwards. I have this already positioned to the top, so it stays that way. Now we want to do the same to this guy, so I'm going to do that. All right, now we want to adjust these elements within the grouping manually now to ensure that things scale the way they are supposed to. How are we going to do this? We cannot. The only way you can now do this is to detach. This simply means in the future, when there's an update to this component, this component would not receive that update, which means you have to redo everything from scratch. Now, this one has adjusted dynamically, but this one, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying not to even try to fix it. I cannot. I can only break the components, which defeats the purpose of a design system. Now, I would select the text. You can see that's the text. If I try to move it, it moves the component. If I select this one and I try to move it, let me go downwards with the arrow key, it doesn't move. You can see that everything here is disabled because it has been adjusted or made reusable from the component itself, so that you can use it effectively within your designs. Now, in this design, I can still select this one and change it from info to error, from error to warning, from warning back to info, and I can do the same for this one. But now I cannot adjust any content within it, which defeats completely the purpose of having a component. Do you understand me? Now let's go back to the other cases. Now this is just case one, which is scalability. You can see that we cannot scale anything within the component system. I mean, within the design system, we cannot, as long as we do not use auto layout. Now in point 2, we have alignment. Now in alignment, I want to show you this alignment from 2 angles. We're going to have a component as well for this, but this is alignment, and this alignment has been done with the component, with auto layout. And forgive me for this minor mistakes that I'm making. I'm trying not to cut and join the video. I'm going to make it just one video, so you can just excuse me for these mistakes, tiny mistakes. Now this has been made a single component. All right, this is a single component that has several elements in it. It has text, it has colors, it has shapes within it. It has layout, it has grid. So this is a full-fledged component. And to do this in the scene of having a grouping, I'm just going to duplicate this, and let's just take this away from this point so that we have more free space. All right, the one above is going to be the grouping. So I'm going to come here, remove the auto layout from it. I'll select this, remove auto layout from it, select this, remove auto layout from it, and we'll leave this as is. It's now a frame. Okay, it's now a frame inside of a frame. Okay, now this other one is the auto layout frame, and what I can do with this one here is endless. I can readjust the layout to be something else. And just for some of you that may want to recreate this, I'll give you the numbers. The space between this is 12. The space between this one is 4 because I wanted to get a 40 in height. The shape is 40. All right, this text is 14 and this is 12. All right, the line height for this body text is 16 and the line height for the title text is 20. so that I can get that 40 in size. And I always count in fours, so it gives me something or tokens that are proportionally correct. Okay, and then the padding is 20 by 20 with a radius of 16. So with this, you can recreate this. Now we have this, and the space, the space between these two would be 16. So I'm going to change that to 16, and then it's aligned at the top. Now with alignment, I can easily align this bottom, center, and top. All right, I can also change the position or the structure of this specific component. I can duplicate it, all right, and I can change it from horizontal, which it has currently. It has two look at it as two different children within the parent. This is the parent container, and we have child 1 and we have child 2, and inside even this child we have some group of childs as well. We have these two which are grouped together, and they're components. I mean, they're in auto layout because I can adjust them dynamically as well. All right, and then we have this button which is a standalone, and both of them are within an auto layout. An auto layout. Not, I don't want to put the word grouping. They are within an auto layout, and that's why you see this line. I can adjust it with this line as well. I can type in 24 and it will adjust dynamically. I can come back and put in my 12 and it would also adjust dynamically. All right, and then we have this guy which is just over there, 40px by 40px. All right, and we want to adjust this, so I'll just come here and change it from horizontal to vertical, and I can send this guy to the top. Okay, and I can make this hog content. Now with hog content, it does not give me exactly what I want, but I can also still fix that, because you can see that the text is not visible anymore. So to fix this, before I go into what I actually wanted to do, I can just select this part, and this guy has to remain fixed. So always lock the aspect ratio and leave it fixed. This way, when I type in 80, it adjusts dynamically for the height and the width. If I remove this aspect ratio lock and I type in 80, you would see that my circle would not be a circle anymore. So always keep aspect ratio locked for elements that you want to scale proportionally. And proportionally meaning you want all sides to always remain equal every time it scales. It must not be equal. So maybe it's a shape that has a height of 80 and a width of 40, and you just want it to keep scaling that way. Always lock the aspect ratio for that shape or element as well. Now back to this guy. Now with this guy, we can see that this guy is on fill container, and if I press enter, pressing enter will allow you select elements within those layers. Okay, so I've pressed enter. I can see that this has mixed calculations. So some of them are in hog, others are in fixed, some are in fill container. We want to make all of them fill container. So I'm just going to click and make them fill container. I'm going to press enter again, one more, select some more elements, which now selects the title here and the body text. And I'm going to just change that to fill container. Now this becomes dynamic, and I can change the positioning to left aligned, and I need to do that for this as well. I'll hit enter to select this, and then I'll select this and align left. Okay, now this is dynamic, but this isn't what we wanted. We wanted something else. We don't want a shape that has this width. What is the width? 80px. Remember, we have a frame. This is our frame. And who would click on such an element that has this bunch of elements, a title, body text, and button, and has this, and still has this size of frame? This is so poor. So how else do we fix this? So first, I'm going to change this background to a gray background because I don't like having white background. Okay, so maybe somewhere at F2 is fine. Okay, now we have F2, we can see our white correctly. I'm just going to give this a grid, so I'll see if I have a grid already here. So I have a grid already in this file, so I'm just going to point this here, And then what I'm going to do next is I will duplicate it. I will duplicate my grid, come here, and I would extend it actually to this point. And I would also extend this one to this point. And you see both of them are not the same. This is 159, all right, and this is 160. I'm going to fix that very shortly. So first thing, I'm going to select this and turn off the grid. I've hidden the grid. Now what I want to do with this is I want to ensure that when I'm using this on a web page, because I want 4 different boxes to be here, when I'm using it for a web page and I scale down to a mobile view, I want it to scale proportionally. I don't want to have to manually adjust things every time. So what I would do is go with the mobile first approach. The mobile first approach is where you design for mobile before you scale it for the web view. Now for the mobile view, we have this. I'm just going to select both of these, align left so that those circles go to the left hand side. They were like this before. Now we've aligned left to push them to the left hand side, and the padding here is 20 by 20, which is fair, but because these cards are small, you can make it 16 by 16. But I'm just going to leave it at 20 and 20 and a radius of 16 at this point. All right, with that done, I will select both of these and put them in an auto layout. It's now in an auto layout and it has a spacing of 16. And then what I will do next is I'm going to come over here and change this from hog to fixed. Now there's a reason I've done this, and the reason is if I don't do this, it's going to impact the next duplication. If I duplicate now, you're going to see that we now have the third element over here, which is something I don't want. I don't want a horizontal scroll, which is normal in mobile device. Because we only have 4 elements, I want all 4 elements to be visible to the user at all times on a mobile screen, as well on a web screen. So I'm going to undo the last one. I'll delete that. With this selected, remember this is now in fixed. It's in fixed. I'm going to hit enter, or I can select the boxes one at a time, and I'm going to change this from mixed, which remember one had 160px and the other one had 159. I'll change it to fill container. What this will do is it would give me this figure 159.5, and this is 159.5, and this one also has the same rate or calculation. And with this, I'm going to change this from fill container to fixed width, and do the same for this one to fixed width. And with fixed width, we still have that distance 16, but what we can also do is select this. I'm going to copy this 159.5 px in fixed width, but we're going to do something extra. We're going to add a minimum width. Now this minimum width will only impact the mobile view. What we're basically telling Figma is when this element hits this minimum width, do not go beyond this point. And I'll show you the use case for this very shortly. Now, once it has hit this minimum width, all we need to do is, once it hits this minimum width, it just remains at that point. It does not scale like the previous one we had. Remember when we scaled this element, we had it vertical alignment, moved this at the top, and then we did hot content and it became this. Remember that? This would not happen to this element ever again. So to do this, all we simply need to do is select one, make it fixed width, copy that fixed width value, and then we're going to come to that same width where you have the width, click on the drop down, and you're going to go to add minimum width. Now with this, just paste in that figure here and hit enter. You're going to see this red line. It means the minimum width has been impacted. And all we need to do for the rest is just copy this and replace this one. We don't need to do it all again. All right, now both of them now have minimum width, and to be sure that both of them have, you're going to see this W having the slash on the left and the right hand side. If we touch this one, you're going to see that it only has the W for width, but this now has this and the slash, which means this element now has a minimum width and would not go beyond this width. Even though I try to reduce it manually, it would not go beyond that width that I've already given to it, unless I go back and remove that minimum width that I've added. And to remove it, you only just need to click on remove minimum. And you can also add a max width. Max width means once it hits this certain max width, don't go beyond it. You can go below, but it will not go beyond it. But for now, we've used minimum width. Now, the next thing we need to do is, if we duplicate this, we'll still have that same thing where it will duplicate horizontally. But we do not want to do that. What do we want to do instead? We want to do something else. So what we want to do now is we want to ensure that it scales downwards instead of scaling to the left. And that is the only way it can scale downwards. I mean, it can duplicate downwards is if we do two things. First, we have a fixed width for the width of this container itself that I just selected. And next, you need to click on wrap. Now, wrap will allow the element to wrap to the next line. And because I have hit wrap, it means that 16px in spacing cannot work for this. So what I need to do is reduce it to 15, and you see that it went back to that position where it was before. Now, if I duplicate it or duplicate any of them, it's going to go to the next line. And this is how we've been able to achieve this. All right, I'll just move this upward and see what is going to happen right now. Now, if I duplicate this and I have this moved this way, right, I'll just first of all constrain this to the left and try to use constraints. This is outside of the auto layout, but constraints allow your elements to stay at certain points in your frame while you scale that frame. So I'm just going to move this somewhere around here, and I'll try to just move this dynamically to the right. So I'm just going to do it this way. All right, I want it to be 4 elements. Remember, it's 4 elements, and the padding now is 20. I'm going to make the padding 32 or 40. This is 42 now. And then this one, I'll just move it and it's going to snap. So we have 40 by 40. And for this, we can just extend it this way to the end. Okay, let's assume this is the web app view for these different boxes, which could represent different things. It could represent features, it could represent quick links, whatever you want to use it for is absolutely fine. The circles are the icons. Now, remember that we did a mobile first approach. So I'm just going to change this to maybe tablet because it's smaller. It's 765, which the tablet has around this to about 820. So this is also fine. So now we want to scale this for mobile, for the mobile view. All right. And what we'll do is we'll duplicate this. If we scale this, you will notice that nothing is scaling. And the main reason why this is not scaling is because these elements are not in an auto layout. They're not in an auto layout. That's why they're not scaling. So to fix this, what we need to do is draw another element, a container like this. We'll put this container in auto layout. Remember, this has a spacing on the left and right of 40. And on the top, it has 50. We can just make it 40, 40. So I'm going to change this to 40 in horizontal and vertical padding. And then for the space between, we're going to change that to 0. We don't need that space between. We'll keep this as center aligned. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select this guy. And once selected, I will just throw this guy in here. it will adjust the way it's supposed to, and then we can remove this fill from here, and then we'll call this features section, something like this. All right, this becomes the features section, and then we'll just bring it back into our frame. All right, and I will select it with this one at the top and put it in an auto layout. All right, and then change that to 0 in spacing, and with that we can move this out. All right, and give the main background a color. We can give it that color. I think we use F2. Okay, and then we can just change this frame numbers to tablet, and then just delete this one. Okay, so I'm going to zoom into this. Now we have that frame. You can see that everything is in auto layout, and if I try to reduce this, it's going to scale dynamically. But the reason why these other guys are not scaling, you can see these guys are not scaling, is because it has a fixed width. Okay, now to fix this, we need to determine the minimum width of this guy. So the minimum width is 335. I'm going to copy that, and I'll come back to this, select this, and I'm going to say this is going to be on fill container first, and then with the drop down, I'm going to come here and say this is going to be on, it's going to have a minimum width of 335. Okay, so now we have the minimum width. I think there's something wrong here, but let me just be sure that yes. Okay, so first this was in fill container, all right, and then we gave it a minimum width because we want these elements to scale when we adjust the main frame. So this is the main frame. Just watch this video gradually. You're going to get everything, trust me. So we have the tablet, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to duplicate the tablet because now we have the tablet view, all right? And then I'm just going to change this to 375. And that's it. It adjusts dynamically based on the different adjustments that we've already done. Remember, we had an initial minimum width for the individual cards. Then we had a minimum width for the card in this collection, which was now 335. And at this point, it will not go anywhere. Even though we do anything, it will not scale. It will still remain at that minimum width because we've already given this a minimum width. If we go below this and say we're giving it, changing it from 335 to something else that is smaller, then it will scale, but then it will not have the proportion. That's why it's good to do this test before you either put it in your design system or before you create for the different view screen sizes. So this is how you can have this done for mobile and also for tablet, and you can also use the same logic for also the what's it called, for the desktop version as well. But we'll only focus on these two. Now we've treated that. Now I'm going to move to avatars. Now imagine you need avatars for your design. You know, you've worked on a couple designs and you need avatars for this design. With groups, you can do that, of course. We have the group here. I'll zoom into it. This is the group, all right? And then we need to do this for auto layout. This is for grouping and this is for auto layout, all right? I have a plugin I use. I think it has avatar in it, UI faces. So I just try to use UI faces for this. It failed to fetch. I don't know why. Maybe it's having an issue, but yeah, we have this. Let's just use colors instead to, so we'll give these colors instead of this. We're going to use green for this, and maybe we'll use blue for this, and then we'll come back and use more colors. So this is for group, all right, and then this is going to be for auto layout. I'm going to break out the group and remove the frame, I'm going to do the same for this. So these are just a bunch of circles. All right, you can adjust them. I can adjust them this way. I'm using -12, and I'll just press Ctrl G to group it. And then for these ones, I'm just going to put them in auto layout. I'm just pressing Shift A, or just click on the layout icon here. You use auto layout. They're going to be this way. And already knowing that I want to use -12, I'll just type in -12. And I'll have this. I can change the title here to avatars. Okay. So I have these two elements. Now, see what has happened. The first element is below the rest of the elements. So they are stacked from bottom, from first to top. Now, if I wanted to switch the logic and stack from top to bottom, where the one at the top will now be behind the ones below, then this is what I'm going to do with the auto layout frame. Let's focus on the auto layout. So with the auto layout, we have red at the bottom and blue at the top. To fix this, it's pretty easy. All I need to do is come to the property section, click on this, and then I will change this from the canvas stacking from last on top, which is the last one. You can see this is the last one. I'll change it to first on top, which switches the logic. Now we have this at the top, and if I duplicate this so that you can see the before and after, this will now be last on top. All right, so this is last on top, and this is first on top. All right, you can see what it is. Now if I wanted to do the same for the grouping, I'm going to select this, and then what I'll need to do is select this one, use the shortcut for bottom. All right, select this, use the shortcut for on top, and then select this, use the shortcut for on top. So this is how I'll basically try to mimic this one, which is also good. It's not bad, I'll be honest. Now, if I wanted to add more avatars to this, then this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come here, and I will just duplicate this multiple times. Okay, let's do that as many times as I wanted. Maybe I wanted this many avatars, which is impossible, obviously. I could have 5 avatars and one more circle showing +10 or showing +5, okay, or showing +100. All right, but imagine I wanted to show this number of avatars. Maybe I have a presentation and I wanted to use this number of avatars in it just to give everybody their own accolades. If I wanted to do the same for the grouping, then this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to duplicate this, and then I would duplicate it, and we're going to have the same result. Okay, but now the tricky part is I would have to go back to all of them to move them from first on top, because now for each of them I'll have to press down, and then I'll keep doing that for all of them till I get back to this point, which is a lot of work and it's not scalable. All right, so in my opinion, when it comes to the avatar use case, use auto layout as well. Don't use grouping, please, I beg you. All right, I've shown you a couple use cases. I'm going to go to one more use case and then we'll wrap up the video. In this other use case, we have a card. I call this a compact card, which has an icon, a title and description, which is text elements, and then it also has a key function, which is the checkbox. All right, we have this, and this would be as individual cards, and we want to put this in the design system. So I've already designed it for the both of them, and we're going to put it in the design system very shortly. So I'm just going to select both of them, duplicate it, all right, bring it here, and then let's start with this uncool. So with this uncool, I'm going to say this is going to be the check option, and let's just do this. Going to, this already has I think it already has like a bounding box. Let me just get out fresh icons for it. So we're going to select checkbox. Right, this is one. This is going to be the first checkbox, and then we're going to have the one that checks, which is this. Okay, and then we'll just get rid of this. Remember our bounding box, we don't need the bounding box now, because in this case it's the entire card will be clickable, so we don't need that extra bounding box around it. Okay, so all we can do now is just change this to icon black. It's fine, we'll use black. And then for this other one, which is not the selected state, we're going to use something like gray. Okay, and then we're going to have one more state, which is going to be the disabled state, where the user cannot select that option. Okay, maybe the option is coming soon, we just want to let users know, and they cannot select the option. Okay, so let's see. So for the first state, we're going to have this. So I'm going to paste, cut and paste. This is 24px. Okay, and this is 40px, by the way. This is also 40px in height, 4px in distance. This is 12, and this is 14 as well. And they all have a distance of 16px, a radius of 16, and a padding of 16 by 16. And we're going to duplicate this. So I'm just going to select these two checkboxes, keep them by the side for now. And then with this, I'm going to just turn it into a component, okay, and then create a variant. This variant is going to be the checked, or we'll just call it the selected. All right, and then for the default, which is this one, we'll just paste and replace that. So this is going to be either default, I like to say unselected to make it clear, especially when I'm working with teams. And then I'll call these variant. No, this would be states. It could be variant as well, but I just call it states for now. And then we'll have one more. This is going to be the disabled state, and I'll paste to replace. Okay, and then in here I'm going to do some adjustment to this as well. I'll make this a subtle text and maybe drop the opacity of this to somewhere around 30%. Cool. All right, and we're going to grab one of these guys, bring this guy over here. Not this guy. Let's grab this other one that has auto layout. So I'll just duplicate it, bring it over here. I'm using Shift 2 to zoom in very fast. Shift plus 2 to zoom into an element, but you have to select that element. All right, and with this, we're going to have this other guy. Okay, this one is the group. We're going to do the same. So first, we're going to grab this, copy and paste to replace. Okay, and then we'll try to align it horizontally, and then the space at the end is going to be 16, which is fine. Okay, then we'll duplicate this. Sorry, not that way. Let's first make it a component. All right, then create a variant, and then this variant is going to be selected. All right, and then we're going to create one more, which is the disabled, and then we'll start changing the icons. Now this does not have it's not pinned to anywhere, but it's fine for now. For this, we're going to change it. All right, and we can actually pin it to the end. You can pin it to the right hand side. This way, when you actually scale this, it moves with that element. This is why you use those type of scaling, and these ones are already pinned constrained to the left hand side. Yeah, and you can do more constraints. You can constrain to the top left, top right, you know, so that when you drag down, then it stays at the top left, you know, just those kind of things. But this video is not about that. Now we have this this bunch of cards. We'll just add one more S to this one, and we have this. Okay, I'm going to just duplicate this, cut it. We're going to duplicate this as well. but this is what we're going to do. We're going to change this from what it is now to the grouping on. Yes, good, so that everybody wears their same coat. All right, and then this one is going to have this, but it's not going to have it that way. We're going to first of all duplicate this, and then we'll select this and paste to replace in there. Yes, and this is fine. And then we can duplicate. Now you see we have this. We've duplicated, but we have this. How do we fix this? 3, 2, 1. We fix this in one simple click. Clicking on vertical layout, you're going to fix it so it becomes vertically aligned, because that's what we're aiming for. And we'll change the distance to 16px away from it so that the users would not mistakenly tap on the other one. And then we can duplicate it maybe three more times. All right, and we have all of this in a 16px distance. We can change the padding at the top and bottom to 20, but we can break that individual padding and change the bottom part to be 40. This is good. We can do the same to this on cool as well. Or you know what, we can select all of this, press enter, put them in auto layout, cut it, Ctrl X, select this, delete, and then we come here, we can change this to horizontal padding. All right, and the distance between them will be 24, and then we'll paste that in. So clear 24px because they are not of the same family. They are completely different. Okay, so we have these guys, and what we're going to do here now is we want to make some adjustment. So we're going to select this text again, the text that we have above, and we'll change one of these texts to it. All right, now watch what happened. It adjusts. You remember that adjust test? It went beyond where it's supposed to, and this means that we need to make the adjustment from the component itself. So with it same in the viewport, let's select these two, move them to the top, and just move this one to the right. With both of them in the view so that you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to select this. This is fill, so I guess all of them are also fill. I can just click on the matching layers and it will select all three of them. All right, they're in fill, and all I need to do now is hit enter, and I'll notice that the width is in mixed. So this means that the title might be in fill container, and then the description might be hog. It's most likely in hog, so it's in hog. All right, so what I can do with both of them selected is just change them to fill container, and that would fix what we had done. And you can see that this now moves into the next line, which is very much perfect for what we were aiming for. And then we can do the same here as well. This is not the spelling of planet, right? This is now the spelling of planet. We need to add U here, planet in the whole wide world of Elon Musk's web. Okay, good. All right, I just wanted to add a bunch of things, so it's meaningless actually, but these are like a bunch of things that I wanted to add as text within these same contents card sections for the user to be able to select between them. All right, this is not the case for it within the screen. This usually stays on an individual screen of its own. Say for instance in an edtech setting where you ask users about their preferences, you could use this for those type of cases as well, to allow them select the preferences that they have for using your product. All right, so this is the case for that. And if you even want to go further, you can give it like an outline. I can go back to the component and give it like a black outline, so that users actually know that has been selected. And you notice that whatever I do there impacts whatever is here. So I can make this maybe 3, and it's very much bold, and that is what we're aiming for when the user selects an element. All right, now for the other one, which is this one here, we're going to do the same thing, horizontal vertically aligned 24px. all right, and then we're going to select one of it, come in here, and we're going to paste that as well and duplicate that maybe just 3 more times. Select this, and this, put it in auto layout, change the distance to 16 px, and that's it. And then we'll change this one as well to the selected form. We'll just do the same thing here. I can copy the property here. I'll just copy property and put it in here and see. Hope it doesn't copy the auto layout. It copied it as well. We'll just remove that. You know what, I will just leave it how it was. Select this and just give it its stroke outline, and that was, I think, 4 or 3. Yeah, 4 or 3 is fine. So this is what it has. Now I'm going to just copy the same text here, and I'll put that same text in here. Okay, now because I want to be fair, I'm going to make that same adjustment I made. I'll press enter and select both of them. All right, and let's just adjust it to the end of the screen. We don't need the other one. We don't need the title. We'll do the same for this. All right, this is where it stops. Okay, and then if we go back, you now see what we have. So this is now dynamic, but the frame is not dynamic, and we cannot adjust the frame. We cannot move it down, you know. So if we try to move it down, you see that it impacts other elements. You know, you can see this element is now impacted. Would then have to find a way to constrain this. So to fix that, actually, you can fix it. You can come back to the component and constrain it to the top. All right, we can do the same for this as well, and you see that that element is now constrained. But what you need to do now is you have to manually adjust this, and then if you put that text anywhere else again, maybe into this, you have to always manually have to adjust it, and it may not still be equal, but you just have to always keep adjusting this text this way, and which is not good, because any other adjustment, like if I make like an update to this element, then it's going to impact this drastically. So it's your call. At the end of the day, I can only do my best to convince you to start using auto layout or to start learning how to use auto layout. But at the end of the day, it's your call to make. Now, to give you a rough summary of how to use auto layout, the first point of auto layout is the first auto layout property you create. So if I remove the auto layout from all of this, and I want to create an auto layout for this element, how would I create this auto layout? First, I need to put all these elements within an auto layout. Now that all of them are in an auto layout, you can see they all have equal space of 11, which means I need to make it better. So this is an equal space of 11. I just duplicate this and keep it by the side. I need to make it better. So how can I make it better? All right, I can make it better by using the auto layout properties to adjust things that need to be adjusted or need to be paired within the same auto layout. So to do this, I know the title and the body text needs to be together, so I'll put them in an auto layout, and then I'll change the spacing to somewhere around 4 to 8. All right, I know that the spacing between this icon and this button cannot be the same. All right, so what I'll do is I'll select the button and the text because they are of the same element or styling, and I'll put it in an auto layout as well. Because I want to give a clear distance between them, I would make this around 12 to 16. Because in a small card, I'll just make it 16. So these are not auto layout decisions, but my own personal design decisions. But you need to give that spacing. And then for this card, I need to ensure that this has a hot content, all right? But while it has a hot content, I need to give it a minimum width of 160, which would let the system know that this is in hot content too, but let it not go below 160. So this is a minimum width. All right, and then for the height, I need to give a clear padding, which would be between 16 to 20. So I decide to go with 20 this time, and I have this clear space. And anything else I want to do is Jara. I can come back, pick this icon, all right, come back here and replace it here, all right, and this becomes an actual card. I can decide to eliminate the button and leave just the title. It's the same, all right. I can decide to duplicate this, remove the body text from here, and just leave only the title, and with that make that 15, all right, and maybe probably just make this around 16 by 16 px, and this is 20. I can make that 24 or even 32 in space between both of them, and it's still my own design decision. But the good thing is I can make all of these iterations as fast as possible without having to move things manually and always having to make manual calculations for the things that are moving around. And this is it. Now within this, I can also use the alignment tool. I can align right, I can align left, all right. And if it was a horizontal layout, I can align top, I can align bottom. But now we've gone back to this, a vertical layout. And within the same vertical layout, there are other properties I can do. I can use the space between, which is currently at 32. I can change it to 40. I can change it or divide it by 2 to get 20. I can increase the horizontal padding on the left and right to 24. I can increase the vertical padding from the top and right for the top and right to 24 as well. Okay, and it adjusts dynamically. I can also use more settings that are embedded within the auto layout settings. Things like exclude outline, like if this had an outline color of blue, for instance, and we give it a strong width line weight, we can go into the auto layout constraint and we can say exclude the stroke from an auto layout group. This means when an auto layout, and you can see the preview at the top, when an auto layout is within certain groups, like multiple cards put into one auto layout, we don't want the strokes to be part of it. We want it to be outside it. What this simply means is something like this. So we're going to duplicate this, and we have these three elements. If I put them in an auto layout, I'm just going to take the line or the ruler. I'm just going to drag the ruler and place it here so that you can see where it is. I'll just bring it out and keep it here so you can see where the ruler is. So I can say, and then let me do it for this one as well. All right, so this is where the ruler is. You can see that the auto layout is included. I mean, the line is included, and the line is included because the outline within the card is within the card. So if I click to select all the cards and I change it from within, which is inside, to outside, you will notice that this is what we would have. And now what I'm going to do is move these lines back to where that line ends. And now this is the frame. So what this frame is telling me now is that those lines are outside of they are not included. They are excluded. The strokes are excluded from the auto layout group, which is the preview you're seeing here. But if I do include, then they include inside. You can now see that these red lines that are created are now in the right position that they are supposed to be. Okay, so this is what the include and exclude that you see here simply means. And the last on top works for things like having things stacked. For instance, if this was stacked and we have minus 40, all right, and I go to last on top, and change it to first on top, it's just going to switch. The first become top, the last become on top, and you can do that any way you want to have it. All right, and that is basically that function within the auto layout setting. And we also have the aspect ratio. Lock the aspect ratio anytime you want elements to scale proportionally. If you adjust one side of it, just always have the aspect ratio locked. Okay, And for this one, I think we have one more. For clip content, clip content works in a way that elements that are within this frame, for instance, if I wanted like a gradient within this same frame, and I just remembered something. So I wanted a gradient. Let me see if I have a gradient. I don't have a gradient. Yeah, I have a gradient, a blue gradient, and I cut it, and I want it within the same frame. I'll paste it. It's going to extend the frame, but I want it in a different, I want it to be in a free form. So I'm going to move this up so that you can see what is happening here. And I want this gradient to be in free form because I want to blur it to make that down part of the shape a bit unique to our own use case. So in order for me to do this, I'll need to select the shape, and then I'll go to where it says position, and you're going to see this ignore auto layout, and then I'll just click on it. That's all. Now, the reason why you're still seeing it with this card closed out is because clip content in the auto layout property is not turned on. Once I turn it on, this will disappear, and I'll not be able to make any adjustment with it except I discover it from the layer section. So to fix this, all I'll need to do is click on this, select this, move it upward, all right, send it to the back with the shortcut. I'm using the shortcut, or you can right click and do I think it's somewhere here, not move page. Where is that function? Yeah, bring to front and send to back. And if you want to move one step at a time, you need to hold, I think, shift. You need to hold not shift, command, so you can move one step at a time, or you can just press that bracket and it's going to take it either down or top. So we want it to be at the bottom, and we want to also blur it. So I'm going to go to effects and choose layer blur, and I'm going to blur that element out. I'm going to use progressive so that the top would be blurred out. You know what? It's the same thing. So I'm just going to maintain it this way, and then I'll just probably just move it out a bit this way. But now this looks this way. If I move this, it moves with it, but this is not what we want to do. So I'm going to select the frame and then select clip content so that it clips that element away from view, and I can adjust that and just keep it downwards there, whichever way I wanted it to be. And that is that. I now have a unique card that is unique to our own platform. All right, and that is basically how you can use the clip content function within your auto layout. So like I said, you can also use the minimum width, you can use the max width, you can remove the minimum, you can remove any minimum or max width that you've added to a specific card or component, and you can also add, if you want to, you can apply variables as well. These are advanced features that you can also do, and it comes from adding certain variable collections in your variables so that you can easily pull those strings within the component level as well. I think I missed one thing, but it's still there. It's the field title. It's the same thing. All right, this is for text fields. When you have text fields, you know, you can, it's also like a dynamic content that you can also use within your components. You know, if you had like a text, what's it called now? If we make this field container, all right, if you have like a text area where the user can type continuously, it just expands, you know, it just expands dynamically while the user types. And yep, that's basically why I added this field title. Unlike its counterpart that would not adjust, it just gives you this text, and you can probably just make it like 320, and you can adjust it this way, and that's that. And that's that. See you guys in the future. Bye bye.